Hi, and welcome back to Wondering Wild. It's Wild Wednesday, and today we're going to talk all about the bees. Okay, so today I want to talk about what the deal is about bees. Why are they so important? Why do we care if they go extinct? What do they do? And how can we help them? Those are my main goals for today, and hopefully by the end of this you won't just go, bee, whenever you see a bee, like I do or my sister does. But you'll also go, bee, okay, leave him alone. I'm just going to back off. I'm just going to let him do his thing, let him do his job. All right? That's the goal here today.
We can kill carpenter bees, right?
No.
That's a problem, because I think there are some that are trying to eat the house.
Well, they are. Bees are some of the hardest working animals on the entire planet, and without them, we'd be in pretty big trouble. To illustrate my point a little bit, let's start with some numbers. First off, bees pollinate about 1/6 of the flowering plants on Earth. This includes over 400 species of agricultural plants. Cats, please. Guys, I'm trying to talk about bees here. Ow! Bailey!
Can y'all go, not do that here? Can y'all go do that somewhere else?
Guys, we have limited battery life, limited memory, and limited time.
And limited patience.
And limited patience. Go away. Honeybees and other pollinators are vital to not only our lives, but to our economy. Honeybees alone produced $19 billion worth of agricultural plants in 2016 alone. And other animal pollinators such as bats, moths, and butterflies and so forth helped produce up to $10 billion worth of agricultural plants in 2016. So whereas we have other pollinators, you see that bees are actually very important because we would lose 2/3 of our pollinating power without bees. Worldwide, there are about 25,000 bee species. In the US alone, there are 4,000 bee species. Bees are amazing pollinators, and they actually have several things that help them be even more amazing at what they do when it comes to pollen. It helps them go above and beyond things like bats and butterflies and moths. These things include one, their pollen basket. Now, the pollen basket, or corbicula, is actually a basket-like structure found on the side of a bee's leg that they actually use to collect compacted pollen and take it back to the hive. They have an incredible set of wings. There's actually 2 sets. They can even form together at rare times to form one large set of wings that helps them to fly incredible distances and incredible speeds. When wanting, these bees can beat their wings up to 200 times a second. A honeybee's body is covered in millions of setae, or sensory hairs, that when using an electron microscope magnified at 185 times, you can see them individually. These hairs can detect minute changes in the wind or in the temperature, and it helps the bee know exactly what's going on in its environment so that it can notice when it needs to go to certain flowers, when it needs to return to the hive, and when it needs to take cover. The honeybee has a rapidly moving proboscis as a mouth that it uses to lap up nectar and other things such as honey into its mouth. And then finally, a bee's eyes are made up of hundreds of hexagonal parts. And aside from its 2 larger eyes, it can actually have up to 3 smaller eyes in the center of its head that detect light. Because of this, a honeybee has excellent eyesight and actually can detect a variety of colors except red. These bees also have stiff hairs on their legs that can catch pollen, and these hairs are super important when it comes to dispersing the pollen all over. And let's talk about something. What exactly is pollination, and why does it even matter? In reality, pollination is the transfer of pollen from the male part of a flower to the female part of a flower, which allows for reproduction. Now, the thing is, you don't want all the flowers that are related in a certain area to just transfer pollen between each other, which is what usually happens if left up to wind. This is where bees come into play, because if one bee stops off at a flower here in our city and then flies maybe 1.5 miles away, to another flower in our city, those flowers more than likely aren't related, but now they've cross-pollinated so that their pollen has been transferred between the two, and two seemingly unrelated flowers of the same species, however, have now been able to reproduce regardless of their distance from one another thanks to our lovely bumblebee. Now, some plants can pollinate themselves, and others can rely on the wind to do this for them because they have special built apparatus to actually help carry their leaves through the wind. Think about oak trees, and they have the little helicopter things that help them disperse their seeds. But other plants need help. They have to be pollinated by a secondary source, such as a bumblebee, a butterfly, a bat, or even a human. And these are the plants that rely very heavily on our bumblebee population. So let's talk about some of the plants that would suddenly go missing if the bees did as well. First off, broccoli. I know you hate it probably, but it's actually very important. Asparagus. I love asparagus. So does Ashley. We'd be sad if it was gone.
I would be.
Cucumbers. So that means not only are you going to miss out on cucumbers, you're going to miss out on pickles. Cantaloupe. Pumpkins. What are you going to carve at Halloween? Blueberries. Watermelons. Almonds. Apples. Cranberries. Cherries. I mean, just imagine the lack of pies you would have if we didn't have honeybees. What kind of pie would you make at Thanksgiving or any other time during the year? And let's talk about honey, because you're definitely not going to have any of that without our lovely honeybees. Oh, it's my candle. I was like, something's burning.
Yes, that's how candles burn.
I know. Now, honey is meant to be the bees' food source during the winter. However, we as humans are quite fond of this beautiful amber liquid that's sweet to the taste and actually a natural antibacterial agent. But let's talk about money, because that usually gets people to think. So, in 2013 alone, the U.S.'s honey crop was valued at $317.1 million. Let's talk about some more numbers that might kind of give you an idea about how important each and every honeybee is and why we really don't have any to spare. So these are some numbers from the UK, who are one of the pioneers of saving the honeybees because they kind of realize how important they are, and I think we should probably follow their lead. So first off, worldwide, bees do these things. First off, 1/3 of all food is pollination dependent. So that doesn't just include plants. Let's think about all the animals that we eat that eat plants. So yes, all your cows and all your pork are actually very reliant on the bumblebees. Worldwide, honeybees are responsible for over 6,000 tons of honey a year. One colony of bees can pollinate 4,000 square meters of orchard. One colony makes an average of 14 kilograms of honey. And one colony contains about 50,000 bees. This year, the United States put their first bumblebee on the endangered species list, the rusty-backed bumblebee, who is a main pollinator of blueberries especially. Now, this pollinator has decreased by 90% since 1990. But it's only one of several species facing these very sharp declines. And the main reason follows a main group of pesticides called the neonicotinoids, which are widely used on crops, lawns, gardens, and forests. These pose the biggest threat to honeybees. And this is because this pesticide is actually absorbed into a plant's entire system, including its leaves, nectar, and pollen. However, thankfully, by being on the endangered species, this requires that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service create a plan of action for these bumblebees, but you can help by knowing what it is you put on your lawn and your garden as a pesticide. Go for more natural options that aren't going to be as harmful to your pollinators. Now, those aren't the only reasons that honeybees are in danger. There's also a mite species that's hurting them, and then there's also the fact that we don't really like them and we tend to exterminate against bees in our yard. So whenever you see a bee, keep in mind that he plays a very vital role in our ecosystem and in our lives. And without bees, any plant, any vegetable that was ever needed, we would have to pollinate ourselves, because the butterflies, the moths, the bats, they're never going to be able to keep up for the bumblebees. And I've got news for you. We don't have the manpower to pollinate every crop that we need. So basically, if you lose the honeybee, you're going to lose most of the foods that actually sustain human life on our planet. If you're really pumped about helping the honeybees, start your own hive. Provide them a place to live. Collect your own honey. It's actually a pretty cool practice, and it's something that you can learn to do relatively easily, and it's a great way to kind of boost the honeybees in your area. Another way is to plant lots and lots of native wildflowers in your yard. So yes, any flower is good, but native wildflowers are better because the bees in your area are predisposed for those flowers. They're adapted to those flowers. So the more native plants and flowers available, the more bees your area can support, and the more likely that your bee populations are going to come back to where they should be. So let's all agree that bees are great. Yeah, they have a stinger. Sometimes they get mad at us because we're all up in their space, and sometimes they sting us. It's not good for them either if they do. Just remember that. So let's move past that. We don't get along with everyone, right? But everyone plays a role, and bees' roles are very, very important. And without them, we're going to be in a very large hole that we might not be able to climb out of. So let's work together to plant lots of native wildflowers, to maybe even start our own bee colonies, and to definitely not try to get rid of the bees in our area, because they deserve to be there and they definitely earn their keep. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Wandering Wild, and as always, comment down below any questions, comments, concerns, ideas you have to help the bumblebee. If I missed anything important that you think needs to be said, please put it down below. My sources are in the description box below. And as always, stay wild and never stop wondering. And save the bees! Woo-hoo!